Hello everyone, welcome to the episode 31 of SoLeadSaturday. The guest we have today, William S. He took his prior education in mathematics. After that, he served for US Army for a couple of years. And again, he got back into the education and did two masters. One master in the business analytics, another one is business administration. And currently, he is one of the leaders in the business analytics and science space. So let's hear his career journey. How did he find his passion or the area of interest and managing to lead that area of interest? So welcome, William, and very happy to have you on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. My name is William Staudenmeier, by the way. So good job. good
That's a little hard for me.
saying that. Yeah, we had that conversation earlier. I know my last name is a little bit difficult to pronounce.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's funny, they say boys are supposed to follow in their father's footsteps, but in many ways, I actually followed in my mom's footsteps. She was also a military veteran, and when she got out of the service, she got her MBA. And after getting her MBA, she decided she wanted to do something more technical, so she became a computer programmer. And actually, when I was a little kid, from an early age, she bought me this small computer and taught me how to make data visualizations, like very like little kid style data visualizations in one of the world's first programming languages. So at an early age, I got exposure to making like data visualizations using computer programming. And fast forward, after serving honorably in the military for 8 years active duty, I got out and got my MBA. But like a lot of veterans who their first exposure to business was getting an MBA, like at graduate school, weren't really sure what we wanted to do with that. But since I already had this math background and taken a lot of computer science classes, and my mom had taught me computer programming, I thought, maybe data analytics might be a way to kind of beef up my technical skills in a short period of time. I found out about this data analytics graduate program at USC a week before the admission deadline, and I sent an email to the director of the program, and he actually let me in without an interview. So very fortunate about that. And meanwhile, I was actually working in kind of a BI functional role between the IT department and the finance department for a large manufacturing company outside of Los Angeles. So I got to pick up these great data science skills, learning R and Python at night at USC, and then apply them during the day at work. So there was a lot of luck involved, and I'm very fortunate for how everything kind of shaped out.
Great that your learning started pretty early in your age, actually, and that's great to hear from you. So what do you think is the most challenging part of your work, and what excites you about this field?
I think when it comes to like data science in general, it's a very, very like broad field, and you can cover a lot of different aspects of different industries. And I think the challenge is that a lot of corporate leaders don't really understand the practical business value of data science in the short term. You think of data scientists, you think of people building statistical models, using big data for like long-term projects like customer lifetime value or artificial intelligence. But really, there's all kinds of awesome short-term projects that we can get involved in that can add short-term value for companies. So one of the most exciting things is the fact that there's so many topics we can cover, and there's so many ways we can add value. And one of the big challenges is trying to raise awareness about that to corporate leaders.
Yeah. So those are really very valuable insights, and definitely, as you mentioned, it can help society work the way it is working on currently with the COVID-19 situation. So thank you so much for sharing, and the way you told about your background as well. It seems that you are very passionate about this field. So would you like to share what are the latest things happening currently in this field?
Yeah, I think that you can bucket that into two categories. Generally, I think if you were to ask a data scientist, what's going on in the field, they're going to talk about artificial intelligence and facial recognition, all these kinds of really cool, like high-tech things that people are doing at Google and Facebook and that sort of thing. SpaceX. And that stuff is super exciting, but I'm also excited about like the practical day-to-day business value that you can get from data science when it comes to potentially like building bots to automate processes. In the past, it would take an entire FP&A, like a financial planning and analysis team, a week to build a financial model or to move data from different Excel spreadsheets. Data scientists could build a model like that, take that same week and build the model and also automate it. So those are the kinds of like day-to-day challenges that I think are most exciting. And it's really great to see that a lot of companies are investing in data scientists on their teams.
Okay. That's great. And next question is along the same line, your area of interest. So you are more of focused on data science with the business science. Then would you like to elaborate how do you see it and how these two are interrelated or correlated?
How data science is related to business analytics? Sure. So I'll give you I work in the digital space, and I'll give you some examples about how you can use like data science in like a short-term business setting. In the past, companies had to invest millions of dollars on these like IT solutions for things that a data scientist can actually like solve within a week or a month time. And that's a big part of what like my content is about. Like, for example, in the digital space, we always want to understand how our competitors are like pricing products. There are a variety of different solutions out there, but a data scientist can actually just build a solution in-house within a short period of time that scrapes the web from all the different competitor sites and pulls it into like a nice dashboard on the business intelligence side, and then we can use that data for price optimization. So that's like one example. Another example is sentiment analysis. It's very useful to understand how your customers and other people are viewing like your products and your brand. And so another project that I've done in the past is scraping the web for different products and then assigning like numeric scales so that we actually have like an understanding of like how high or how negative we are in certain aspects.
Yeah, that's great actually. Both the examples were definitely elaborates on how those things are interrelated. And moving to the next question is about again along the line same business science and analytics. What all things do you see as an important factor in the organization when it comes to business analytics?
Well, I think that there are a lot of classic ideas that still hold true. One is single version of truth. I think one of the problems is if you've got a data scientist on every team, that teams can become kind of territorial about like what their data shows and that sort of thing. So it's good to have data analysts and data scientists spread throughout the country or throughout the company. It's important for there to be an agreement on what the actual truth is when it comes to the numbers at the end of the day. Some other aspects that are important in business intelligence is I think that it's a good idea for companies to try to develop business intelligence solutions that actually solve the problem and just invest in technologies that are famous. Because there are a few like dashboarding and BI tools out there that are very famous. When it comes to visualizing complex problems, it's difficult to do that with bar charts and line charts. You might need something a little bit more sophisticated. So one of the advantages of having someone who can build things in like R and Python and JavaScript is that there's just a limitless supply of the kinds of ways that you can actually visualize data. And you can do it in a manner that actually reveals insights that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So I think single version of truth, that's the most important thing. And then also having business intelligence that's really focused on like solving the problem.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And moving towards along your career journey, any interesting experience or the learnings that you always remember, like while growing in your career? Would you like to share about that?
Sure. I think that when I was working in finance at one of the world's largest companies, I was working in consolidation, and I saw how much time a team of analysts was spending to move financial data from one spreadsheet to another. And in some cases, when we were reconciling invoices, there was actually a lead on a team that was spending a week of her time every week manually copying the data, thousands of pages of invoices, and then that data trickled down into our financial models. So I learned that people really don't have a solid understanding often of kinds of technology tools that are out there, let alone the value of like data science. And one thing that I've tried to be good at throughout my career is showing people that, hey, we can solve this within a short period of time. And then my previous employer, I actually built a workflow that took all that data from the PDFs and spit it into an Excel model that we could use. So it took a process that had normally taken about a week, and it was done in 5 minutes at the end of every month.
That's great. And do you work on the machine learning side as well? Like any favorite machine learning algorithm that you have, and why is that your favorite machine learning algorithm?
I think that, so I'm not doing anything currently when it comes to like deep learning or random forest. I'm not building fraud prediction models or anything like that. But I normally use machine learning for evaluative and short-term prediction purposes. I think that it's fairly easy to build an application that can take your forecast and immediately look at what is the best possible forecast and then spit that out. Instead of just using, moving averages like we normally do in finance, we can run through 100 different models within a matter of minutes and spit out the best one. And then in terms of, I also do work on the marketing side. So I do a lot of kind of clustering analytics and basic stuff like that. But even though it's not as sexy as like deep learning and random forest, a lot of these old school machine learning algorithms have practical business purposes that people don't even realize.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the marketing analytics, right? Would you like to tell more about it, about marketing analytics?
Like how
that helps actually to
in terms of like customer segmentation and whatnot. So I think that many companies there are certain like technology companies out there when it comes to customer analytics. They're like customer analytics leaders like Facebook and Google, etc. But a lot of companies and like large companies that have actually done projects for can surprisingly be a little bit like behind the times because they simply haven't like understood like the power of that. So some projects that I've worked on in the past is actually just pulling data from like different SQL servers, combining it with Google Analytics data, putting it together in order to like that feeds into some of these like basic clustering machine learning algorithms, determine how like profitable our different customer segments are. Like basic, we're talking about the most basic level. It's the same kind of project that anyone who's studied marketing analytics has probably done in school. But applying these like school learnings on the job can actually raise a lot of value. In our case, I applied this at one of my companies, and we were able to increase lift by around 15% within a short period of time because we were able to show exactly how to target specific customer groups and what was successful and what wasn't in the past.
Yeah. So, definitely this is a very valuable point that you pointed it out. Like, whatever you learned in the academics and when you enter into any job role related to that, definitely real experience is always different than whatever you learn when it comes to applying something, whatever you learned into the business. So thank you so much for sharing. And as you already mentioned, actually, your journey towards programming started very early in your age.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite programming language, and which one and why?
So I kind of consider myself the underdog, in my career, because I was a military veteran who became like a senior data scientist. And in the data science space, R is definitely the underdog. So that's probably my favorite programming language. Another reason is it's built on Fortran, so it's extremely fast. And basically all the packages and APIs are free. Plus the Shiny, it's kind of like the interactive dashboarding visualization side of R, is completely free to use. And it's really fast way to prototype your designs. Actually, all of the content that I've produced, I've been able to put together on a Saturday morning. I set my time limit. I'm going to get up Saturday morning. By 1 p.m., I'm going to be done with this project. And I think that would be impossible if I was using another programming language, because either I would have to pay to use like the dashboard, or I would actually have to create like my own web page using Flask or JavaScript or something like that. So
Okay.
all of them.
Whatever points you mentioned, those are definitely like advantages of that particular programming language. R is definitely really good for it. That is also very good. So I can relate to that because it has very less number of lines of code, and it is quick actually. People
Very
understand
fast.
easily. Yeah. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It really shows that you are really interested and passionate about this area that you are working in. So what do you think is your leadership style and any leader that you always follow or admire?
So honestly, when I started out my military career, I was a bit of a hard ass. I could be a little bit of a micromanager. And I remember when I actually got my platoon before deploying to Afghanistan. I got my first platoon like 2 months before we were going to deploy. And actually at midnight that night, we were all on a bus down to go to this training, this mandatory training you have to go through before the deployment. So it's like, happy birthday, here's your platoon, get on the bus, we're going to Afghanistan, And they spent, years preparing me for that moment, telling me exactly what you're supposed to say. But the reality really hits you when you're staring out at a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old kids, many of whom have families already, and they're about to go with you to a long deployment to Afghanistan, like for real, like going on combat missions and stuff. So I felt an enormous sense of responsibility. And the way I dealt with it that at the time was, I was like, we're going to get up at 4:30 a.m. every morning, we're going to stay late, we're going to be training and that sort of thing. And it was about a month into the deployment that one of my senior leaders kind of took me aside and he's like, you need to lighten up a little bit. And, you're being a little bit too hard on these guys. What's really important is your relationship with them, and that they know that you care. And that really hit me. And so after that, I tried to develop a much more flexible coaching style. I would have conversations regularly with people in my platoon, not just with senior leadership present, because I really wanted people to be able to speak up and share their opinions. And I wanted to get feedback from them, because I'm not a genius. I can't think of everything. And it was actually during one of these review sessions that my driver drove my truck, Cortez. He said, "Sir, if we're so scared about hitting bombs all the time, driving over a bomb by mistake on the road, why do we even drive on the road?" It sounds so simple, but it's not something that I'd even thought about, Why are we driving on the road? And that happened early in the deployment. And after that, whenever possible, when we weren't going through towns or cities or whatever, we would drive off the road as much as possible in kind of a zigzag manner that made it unpredictable for people who were trying to target us. And I really think that's one of the main reasons all of us came back alive after that long deployment. So the kinds of leaders I respect, I really look up to people who can confront their own ego and realize that, they don't know everything, but are always available to take the call. You can talk about things realistically with them. I also respect competence. Like if the leader really knows like their subject matter and is secure enough in that to admit when they're wrong. So I've tried to emulate that leadership style in my own career.
That's great, actually, and very good qualities actually that you mentioned. Definitely, nature always there for the team. Whenever it comes to like team building, it's very important quality to have. Building that confidence, having that proper relationship with individuals within the team. Those are very important factors when it comes to the leadership. Because I think leadership plays a very important role in anybody's career growth. Uh, Learn a lot of things. Like I have seen a couple of leaders, like people under them copying the same sentences where they're talking to the other person. So that much a
Right.
leadership can affect any person. So it's very important to get the proper leadership. So thank you so much for sharing,
You're
and
welcome.
very a very great leadership style to have. Moving towards our next question is about what do you think that like extra mile or step that anybody has to take to follow their area of interest and grow in that career? What factors or anything particular that one person?
Well, I think you have to separate out getting the job and actually like being good at the job, because I think those are two very different things. A lot of influencers in the data science area, most of their content is like interviewing tips. Do
Mhm.
the interviewing tips when you get the interview. But realistically, the people that land the job are not the ones who like can answer all the questions. They generally have a friend who works at that company, and then through the interviews, people like them, and that's how they get the role.
Uh,
I know many extremely smart, qualified, ethically strong students who weren't able to land a job in the United States after the data analytics program. And many of the ones that I know that are now working at the top companies
mhm.
weren't that strong. It didn't even go show up to class, showed up late to class, were always partying, but they were good at politics and like the networking piece. So when people reach out to me, I know no one wants to hear this, but it's really a big part of it is expanding your network and being able to develop relationships, because data science is new, and there's a good chance that if you're good at data science, your boss isn't going to know anything about it, and that's going to come out during the interview.
Yeah.
So that's getting the job. When it comes to like becoming better, I think it's really just about your passion.
Yes.
Grandpa used to love tinkering in the garage. He was a mechanic. He was always out in the garage tinkering with motors, singing a little song to himself. I
Mhm.
spend my Saturdays building applications. It's what I enjoy. So if you're genuinely passionate about it, I think you'll just get better, over time. As long as you're doing it in your spare time, you'll definitely get good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, and definitely it is useful for audience as well. Moving towards the guidance side, actually, would you like to recommend any books or online courses that people should learn from those? Okay.
Yeah, I really think Data Camp is good for people who have some experience in computer programming languages or are pretty good at picking stuff up fast. You can just start with Data Camp. I
Yeah.
know a friend of mine who works. He's the head of marketing analytics at a company in Australia. He just started learning R like a month ago, and he's already posting content and building apps and stuff like that. So those Data Camp courses are really good. But someone who has no experience with computer programming whatsoever, this is going to be super controversial. If you post this, maybe people are going to make a lot of negative comments about it. But I think just starting with the W3, the free W3 course, if you have no experience whatsoever in computer programming, it's not a bad way to understand the basic grammar and vocabulary of programming language, so that when you start doing something more advanced, you can complete those modules within 2 hours, so that when you start doing something more advanced, you have like some kind of context to wrap your head around. And then in terms of advancing even farther, once you get past Data Camp, I really just think you have to use it at work or do projects in your spare time. Because just like learning a language, you can like take classes but if you're not immersed in it every day, the amount of improvement is there's like a ceiling to it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely, W3 schools is always the parent of anything, actually, any programming language. That is a good point to start. And data camp is also one of those, actually. What I feel is that it gives you the interactive interface to the coding parallelly along the way you are learning it. So that is also a good way to learn. Uh,
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing.
you're welcome.
Moving towards our last question to end this podcast is
Okay.
your advice for the people who are looking to enter into this field, like business science or business analytics, and want to grow in their particular field, or people who are looking for transforming their career into the business science. Any tips or advice to end this podcast?
Yeah, I would say that I get so many messages every day, as crazy as it sounds, from people who want to break into like the data science
Mm-hmm.
field, and they're saying, what classes should I take, what kinds of certifications. And going back to my earlier point, let's say that you graduated from IIT in India, you know, you're qualified, you've already got the technical skills, don't sell yourself short. Now it's really about expanding your network. Most people that reach out to me, I can tell from their profiles that they're very, very smart. They're already qualified. I mean, you've got data scientists at Amgen with just undergraduate degrees in something like economics, literally working as data scientists at Amgen, like this top company. You got data scientists at all these top companies that are relatively underqualified compared to many of the people that are reaching out to me from a skills category. But they landed that role because of their politics and their networking ability. So it's unfair. It's myopic. But if you really want to get into this career path, you have to be willing to expand your network, make friends with people. Don't make it obvious that you're looking for a job right off the bat. When you message someone, try to make friends with them first. Do projects, post content, like and comment on other people's content, so you don't come across as selfish, I think. And also, don't get discouraged because right now nobody's hiring. So it's just not a good time for recent grads, unfortunately.
Yeah. Those are really very valid points. I can tell from my experience also. It is very important to support each other. It's not about just whenever you are learning something, it's important to share as well as learn others as well. So thank you so much for sharing, and I hope audience you enjoy this episode as well. And as I always say, until we meet, happy leading. Let's lead together. Stay safe. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.